The meeting to order for the Board of Health on October 20th, 2022. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Any public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the minutes. Any comments on the minutes?
I do not have any comments on the minutes from September 20th.
Correct.
No comment.
Okay, do I have a motion?
And motion to accept the minutes from September 20th.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ron?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next thing is the COVID-19 update.
Okay, so, kind of a short update right now. The at-home tests have made it difficult to really track for us. Currently reported tests are only, I believe, 14 the last time I checked, but it's obviously much higher than that with the home tests. We don't have any way of really tracking those. I included the incidence rate for Harwich, which is currently 15.9 compared to Massachusetts, which is 17.9. Our percent positivity is 13.13 compared to Massachusetts, which is 7.82. The good news is that there's only 22 patients intubated statewide. There are 72 patients in the ICU statewide, and there are 227 patients hospitalized, primarily with COVID statewide. I've also included our vaccination update, which is very high. We're one of the higher towns on Cape, which is good to see, as well as the booster doses are on the rise.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the board? Okay. Next up is the fertilizer.
Okay. So I've included, the Conservation Commission recently had discussed creating a bylaw in town referring to the selectmen to create a bylaw. Unfortunately, the town of Harwich cannot create a bylaw at this point, which we know. We can't create regulations or bylaws. There were several towns on Cape that chose to take part in the DCPC, the District of Critical Planning Control, which would have enabled us to create either a bylaw or a regulation. But because in 2013 we didn't take part in that, we would not be able to promulgate those regulations. What the Board of Health could do is encourage the Board of Selectmen or the town to reach out to the state to petition that initial change in 2013. So if the board did want to take action and follow suit somewhat with what the Conservation Commission did, you could petition the Board of Selectmen to petition the state to change the regulation. But unfortunately, we can't create a bylaw.
Mm-hmm. Any comment?
I mean, it sounds like, except from going to the board, that we really can't do anything about it right now. I mean, I have hesitations about it anyway. If you're just gonna say residential lots, why limit it to that? Like, there's, green lawn is it's vanity. It's a totally aesthetic thing. And most lawns here on Cape Cod are crabgrass and weeds. I mean, there's not a lot to it. So, if we can't do anything, we'll pass on for now.
Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hands are tied until we petition the state, like you're saying, so.
Ron?
Well, I think we should start thinking about this. I really think we should talk to the selectmen, and figure out how do we get involved with this. Because if we have a lot of spillage right now, let's figure out what we can do about it. I mean, you just can't forget about it.
Okay, my only comment is, I believe that we do test the water, our drinking water, and right now, I don't think our drinking water has a problem. But I don't think we need to wait until we have a problem to start to think about it. I do have something that I'd like to put out there that for people to think about is, maybe for residential, and that might be a little bit different than the way you're thinking, I can see cutting back with the residential, but I think places that have people that come here as, for vacation, all right? And let's say they go to Wauquasit, or they go to some of the other places that they're looking for it to be nice. If they are doing it within the regulations that the state sets, all right, which is basically what we are, our policy right now, which is a policy, are recommending, I think we need to take that into consideration, because that's part of their business. We would allow the golf course to do it because they need it. So I think that we need to take that into consideration. So I'm going to put a question out to Katie. Is it possible for us to have a public hearing and get comments on what the town thinks about this? Where does everybody stand on this? Because I think a total ban is maybe sounding good, but I personally don't think it's realistic. But I'd like to find out what the rest of the town.
Would you want to do that after you petitioned the state to see if you were even allowed to do that, though?
All right, in a way that makes sense. I just don't know how long it takes the town to respond. And I'm wondering whether we want to have some of that information before we send the memo to the Board of Selectmen.
I'd have to look into how we could post a public hearing for something that we're not creating.
Okay, all
We
right.
could easily do a public meeting.
Or a public
and
meeting, all right.
We could do,
All right,
I mean, this is a public meeting right now. If you wanted to, we could continue the session to the next meeting, and we could advertise it,
All right,
you know,
all
a
right.
little more broadly.
All right, all
For
right.
further discussion.
All right, all right. Probably the meeting was what I was looking at rather than a hearing, but a public meeting to get input from the town as to how everybody feels. I mean, it's your water, it's your drinking water, but it's also your town. And the towns on the Cape we're basically here for vacationers. I know we live here, but without the vacationers, we aren't gonna have any towns. So it's just something I think all of us need to think about, and I would think, come back to us, give us your input, and we can incorporate some of that into the memo that we then turn around and send to the Board of Selectmen
So I can add that on as a public meeting for November.
for November. Any further?
Yeah, I mean, I see that point wholeheartedly as far as, like golf courses and some of like the
Wauquasit.
places where people come and visit. There's a lot of commercial places around here that would use fertilizers that aren't necessarily dependent on tourism as part of their main income. And I think if we're gonna include residential people in this discussion eventually and then ban them, I think we should look at those businesses that are commercial that aren't necessarily tourism-based and include those in that group as well. I do live right on the West End Reservoir, and I've seen firsthand the last few years, these green algae blooms. I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
the fishing
Yeah.
decline in that reservoir year after year. So I would definitely be behind some action on
Some-
this. But I wouldn't want to just say residential. I would want to take it a little bit further, but happy to take into account businesses that are based on tourism.
Okay.
And if you want, I don't know if there's anyone online or in the audience that's here for public comment on this. You can open it up now if you wanted to.
Did you have a comment? Oh, I thought somebody pointed to you. Did you want to say anything? I thought somebody pointed, like there was somebody else wanted to speak on the board. Okay.
Emily,
Oh, okay. Did you?
No, I don't want to say anything.
Okay.
Now.
All right, now, all right. Anybody online? don't have
I
that.
am.
What was that?
Can you say that again, please?
Hi,
For some reason, my screen isn't working. But my name is John Eidman, 2 Wisdom Way.
Hi, John. So John actually is an expert
Hi.
in this. The
Welcome.
expert.
I'm not an expert, but I have some thoughts. So if I may proceed, Madam Chair.
Yes, yes, please do.
Thank you. So I'm definitely in support of restoring to Harwich and other Cape Cod communities the ability to regulate plant nutrients, in particular fertilizers. I guess what I'm not in support of is an outright ban, which is well intended, but may just serve for messaging or virtue signaling without any real practical effect associated with such a ban. What I could certainly support is some direction from this board and other land use boards, such as the Planning Board, to direct the Board of Selectmen to seek the legislative delegation to either put in general and or special legislation to restore to Harwich and other Cape Cod communities the ability to regulate plant nutrients that was taken away, I think, inappropriately from Cape Cod communities in 2014, given the particular physical circumstances and characteristics that Cape Cod communities have, especially in relation to the variety of water resources we all share, drinking water, ponds, and estuaries. I also, I think what's going on with Orleans and what happened, I think, almost a year ago now in Nantucket as well, I just don't think it's going to be effective, given what I understand about home rule authority. I guess one could argue that it performs some sort of messaging, but it could also be just the sort of opposite messaging that we need, especially when you look at what happened in Orleans the other night, where there was a very divided crowd in whether there should be an outright ban on fertilizers or not. I don't think, given the close division there, I don't think it was really any message to either the general court or the legislative delegation about what the town of Orleans wants to see in terms of fertilizer regulation. I believe it's much better to control fertilizers and plant nutrients through responsible regulation that's not an outright ban, that gives us the authority and the opportunity to look at circumstances in our town. There are certainly places like buffer zones to wetlands, or certainly the buffer zones to public drinking water supplies that warrant, in my opinion, outright bans, certainly bans within, say, the 50-foot of conservation areas that you don't see in state law today. But in other situations, I think we need the opportunity as a community to discuss these issues and come up with regulations that are both science-based and work. And even in terms of that, looking at the burdens that it places on our important public servants. We need the human resources and the financial resources if we want to regulate these things in order to regulate as the community wants and demands. There are also a variety of nuanced issues that regulation allows, but outright bans may not, such as, what do we mean by fertilizers? Of course, compost is a type of fertilizer, and sometimes in my mind that's seen as a panacea. Compost in many ways is preferable to a synthetic fertilizer, but it still contains nutrients and may very well contain contaminants of emerging concern, or PFAS, which is a growing concern in Cape Cod communities. So, without being more long-winded, I guess I would just say that I don't support an outright ban, but I would certainly support this board and other boards in the town communicating the select board to then communicate to our legislative delegation and the general court, and a request for special and general legislation is needed to restore the authority we have to regulate the important water resources that we have in Harwich and we share with our sister communities on Cape Cod. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, John. So I guess your recommendation is what, to provide us with some information, or did you want to speak with the Board of Selectmen?
I think John was recommending that, oh, go ahead, John.
I'm just saying, it's your authority, it's not mine, but what I would like this board to do and other boards is just to communicate to the select board to put in for some sort of special and/or general legislation as needed, rather than this board proposing a set of Board of Health regulations that just bans the application of plant nutrients outright, similar to what the town of Orleans has proposed recently through a general bylaw.
John, I have a question for you. With that, they're looking to totally ban it. If their idea is to petition the state to allow the towns to regulate fertilizer, would that bring it back to the towns then to decide what they're going to do as far as fertilizer? In other words, whether some towns want to do a total ban, or some of them want to take a more strategic look at that, where you allow it in some places and maybe not others, like you were referring to, and more control it.
Yeah, that's why I would, what I would recommend and what I would like to see is that authority return to the towns. That is not what Orleans or Nantucket have done.
Okay.
As I understand it, they have approved town meeting votes to seek special legislation to ban fertilizer outright as they define it in their proposed laws in their particular towns. I'm not necessarily in support of that because as well-intended as it is, I think it's just virtue signaling. What I understand about home rule authority in the state, and given the general laws we have in the state, that would be ineffective. So I think, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I think what's necessary here is to first change the general legislation we have in the Commonwealth, which was previously changed in 2014. And, if there's some, discomfort about changing that throughout the state, perhaps change the general legislation to allow particular communities like the ones on Cape Cod to develop their own rules. And, in my opinion, the particular circumstances exist in Harwich and Cape Cod communities, given the relationship we have to the variety of water resources we have on Cape Cod. I guess my personal philosophy is always to seek a sort of a moderate, balanced regulation that looks at the variety of interests and resources that are necessary. Even if there were some outside chance, a general ban on plant nutrients, would be authorized, it would pose an incredible burden, throughout a town. It would pose an incredible burden on our town staff. It's, much easier to regulate in a sort of a known domain, such as 100 feet within a wetlands resource, or within, a buffer zone to a drinking water well, than it is just willy-nilly to ban something outright throughout the town.
All right, thank you. Anybody else online? Anybody here in the,
I had one small comment.
Can you go to the mic?
come up to the speaker and give us your name, please.
My name is Leon Narbone, and my only comment is there are alternatives to the fertilizer that could work for everybody, and I think that's worth exploring. There's natural types of fertilizers that may not be being used, that might be something that would be able to be helpful for the residents, as well as definitely the businesses such as Waquasit, or businesses that rely on that beautification for people to want to come to Harwich and Cape Cod and expect something, golf courses, et cetera, and maybe that needs to be explored. There's a lot of other alternatives that may not have been options that are options today. So it's worth taking a look at that.
And I would agree with that. I think that is something that could be, if the state allows us, and I'm gonna say us meaning the town of Harwich.
Right.
To have a regulation, then that's something is definitely that I would really like to see, to explore.
And that's got a lot of merit, because there's so many new things with everybody being concerned with the water, drinking water and everything, that
I think there are a lot of people that would.
we just got to do some good homework and really research, really.
All right,
That
if we
would be
get to that
important.
point, I count on you coming back.
Oh,
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on the board? Katie?
So just to clarify, do you still want to bring this back for more comment prior to reaching out to the selectmen, or do you want to make that be the first?
I'd like to have the community, next month, to see, anybody that has an interest to come forward and give us your opinion, and we can incorporate some of these ideas that both John expressed and what the people here expressed, put that into the memo as a reason for wanting them to petition the state to allow the
change
towns
legislation.
to change, so change that legislation. Not necessarily that we're looking to ban it outright, but give us as a town that ability to regulate it, which we don't have right now.
How long would that take if we wanted to do that and we?
To petition the state?
Yeah.
Don't know. I believe, like as John said, Nantucket's
know.
ban has been held up in the AG's office for at least a year. I don't know how long that would take to get an answer.
It would be interesting, and when I would expect it to be quite a while before we would, even if we hear back for it to go through. The government doesn't work very fast, which I'm sure you're all aware of. But I would be interested in your list of organic or fertilizers that you have, if you want to send them to Katie, if you have a list of those. I have some of my neighbors I know that would be very interested in that. And I don't know whether we can put something like that on with our fertilizer, that there are,
Sometimes the organic ones can actually contain more nitrogen, so we need to be careful, and
Ooh,
we
all right.
can't recommend products.
all right, so let's take a look at them first. All right, yeah, even if he just sends us the list and we can see what's there, what we can do with it.
Yeah, we couldn't put out a recommendation, but.
All right. All right,
I just have a comment that
Sure.
if it takes that long for anything with legislation, should we go ahead and start the process even before public comment? Because
See,
we're going to
we're-
be doing this.
we're kind of limited because of what was in our CWMP. We can't make regulations.
So it's not the CWMP, it's the actual Massachusetts legislation.
Right, that we can't do that. So, I don't know what our options are between now and then.
I mean, Pam's right, if the town wanted to, they could start the process, but it would be held up.
Yeah. Oh, all right, you mean the process of, the Board of Selectmen sending that memo?
Or were you referring to creating the bylaw and then waiting for an answer?
Yeah, creative
Yes.
bylaw.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
You're right, it takes forever.
Well, why not start the process and see what happens?
Well, we can put, we probably are gonna have a good year or more, so, we certainly can start putting some things together. A lot of it's probably gonna be what's already on the state, website as far as fertilizing.
And bylaws come from the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, yeah.
Well, how do we petition the selectmen?
I think Katie she said she can write a memo. So what my thought was to wait till after the meeting next month, and have the people in the town give us their input and incorporate that as the reason that we wanted the Board of Selectmen to petition the state to allow us to make those changes.
I just wanna make sure the public's very aware that there's that massive roadblock.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
it wouldn't be
it's
promulgated.
not gonna happen overnight,
To affect at next town meeting.
yes. Okay, any further comments? And we're all done, all right,
So we'll just, take it under consideration for now
yes.
and
So we don't need,
re-advertise as a public meeting.
we don't need to vote or anything on this
No,
then?
not on that.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda is the tobacco.
And we have Bob Collette on from the county. Bob's actually on vacation, so I appreciate you taking this night off for this, Bob.
Sure, no, my pleasure. And Cheryl Sabara was not available to help, so I'm happy to be here for you. Hello, everyone.
Good evening. All right. Let's start off with the, do you want to start out with the people first, or we want to do the board first?
Why don't you start with the board first?
All right. Have any comments, questions, concerns?
So I've provided, so Bob has given us, the state has drafted a sample 22 tobacco sales regulation. I know we had started kind of very initial discussions of amending the existing one, but it might make sense and have the board discuss maybe just using what the state has provided and amending that as you see fit.
So, has anyone had a chance to go through all of this? I did actually read all of this, so, you know, comments?
You know, I didn't read everything here word for word. You know, a lot of the state regulations are good. I know the last time we had kind of touched on this in a meeting, there was the regulation that if a place loses their license, that automatically comes off the number of the locations that are allowed to sell in Harwich.
So that would be something, if we wanted to keep that, which I would recommend keeping,
Yes.
we would add into the state draft.
Okay. I mean, I guess even though I'm not for smoking, I'm a reformed smoker myself, there's a demand. I hesitate to deprive somebody the opportunity to run a business if there's a demand. Just kind of want to verbalize that. I know I wasn't around when that initial decision was made. Seems to be a very popular decision, though, you know, I do have some hesitations as these businesses that are currently here. I mean, are we gonna get to a point where in Harwich there are no places allowed to sell tobacco at all except for a single store that is just for those products?
I hope I don't.
I think it's this, when I was there and, the point was there are so many right now. If it ever reached the point where there was only one in the town, then we would readdress it, but the time we did that, it made perfect sense, I felt, to make sure that if a license is gone, it doesn't get transferred to somebody else.
Well, I guess we could revisit that.
It's still a public health crisis.
Yeah.
So, like, that was, you know.
It causes a lot of health problems. I'm not denying that, but much like I believe in everybody's right to make their own decision about getting vaccinated, it's their own decision whether they want to smoke or not. And as long as, you know, we can all step aside and say that someday down the road, if that needs to be revisited, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to voice my opinion on that matter. I wasn't on the board when that initial decision was made, so.
Okay. All right. Matt, anything further?
No comment.
You have anything further?
No.
Ron?
I kind of go along with that. I mean, I'm obviously against cigarette smoking in general. And so the least amount of establishments that sell tobacco, to me, the better off everybody is.
All right, I'm gonna comment on that. I agree. I've never been a smoker, and I'm against smoking. My mother was a smoker, and it really always bothered me. However, I do think we come down to, you have some rights, and you have your responsibilities, every person, if you choose to smoke, all right? I won't say that I'd want to get maybe to 0 places in town, but can we discuss something in between that, where we would say, when we get to so many, in other words, kind of, I think what maybe you were talking about, that you would allow so many, but let's not say that everybody that wants one, we're going to give a license. Or if we have one person and opens 4 different stores, have licenses, do we want to come up with a number where we want to keep it at? Is that something that we can discuss to put into these if we would decide to adopt these regulations?
You can do whatever you want. It's your regulation.
That's a scary thought.
You might want to check and see if Bob has any input. I mean, he sees every single
All
town
right,
on
Bob.
the Cape.
All right, so I'm slightly unclear on what you're talking about. It seems like the first gentleman that spoke is saying that, eventually all of the tobacco retailers could eventually be denied permits. I'm not sure. Do you have a permit cap in your local regulation? Is that
No,
what this
but
is about?
Yes.
The way it was
There is-
worded, there is
There is a
cap.
current permit cap. And basically, if someone returns a tobacco permit, it doesn't, it gets removed from
The
the
number comes
cap.
down.
It decreases every
Right,
time.
right, gets retired. So, but don't you have a number beneath which, like a maximum number that is allowed in town eventually? So for instance, let's say you have 15 permits out there right now, which is around what you have, I believe. Have you set a number of, say, 12 as the desired number of permits that tobacco permits that you would like to see in town? And so over time, as permits are retired, you get to that number 12, and it creates a greater value on that permit, and thereby encourages more responsible behavior on part of the retailers, knowing that if they lose that permit, they can't get it back, and there's sort of a waiting line, similar to the way that permits for alcohol licenses work. Is that what you're discussing here?
So Sharon wants to know if creating something like that where a static cap would be in place, whereas of right now, it would come down to 0.
Yeah, what we recommend is establishing a static cap. So you decide on the number. It's a density strategy for tobacco retailers in any given town. So you don't have it's designed basically to prevent the gas station on every corner, or the convenience store 2 blocks away from each other, all the way through town, all selling tobacco products. And again, it creates a greater level of awareness and responsibility and value of the permit based on the limited number, the restricted number in the town. It's a proven strategy to help retailers comply with local regulations and prevent illegal sales to minors.
So can we do something like bring this back for discussion as far as what he's recommending or suggesting is a limit on how many does the town want to have?
If you have a thought on how many you want to put in as a holding place, I can add that in I can use this draft and pull that in.
What do we have right now?
I think he's 15.
15.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Pardon?
If I may make one more
Yes,
suggestion,
please.
if you do choose to discuss this sort of strategy, what we recommend is you take the number that you have already and either keep it at that or add 1 or 2 for new businesses that come in. But if so it prevents widespread widespread growth of the number of permits across town. As the town grows, you might have more demand for more retailers, more stores coming in and that kind of thing. So you're not saying, okay, we're going to go from 15 to 12 now. We'll say cap it at 16 or 17, and that would be it. Or you could choose to do a lower number than you currently have, and that's up to you. But what we say is, give a little leeway for new businesses to come in, so it's not, not so draconian.
I don't think we want any, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. I think we want to come to maybe when we get down to 10 to read.
Yeah, that's fine too.
but
It's,
I don't
yeah,
think we want
that's-
to increase it from 15 to above that.
so you can make it at 15 with the goal of, in, say, 5 years or 10 years, have it reduced down to 10 as permits are retired or lost due to, continuous non-compliance.
All right. I think,
Yeah, I think that would be completely reasonable. I understand with like 15 now and the way it's written, one loses it, that number comes down to 14. But let's at some point down the road cap that
At
around
10.
10, leaving the opportunity for
12.
some businesses. And then
Yeah.
if past 10, one loses it, then there's one open license for somebody to, incorporate it into their business as long as they're being responsible. I'm all for bringing it down a little bit, but to say that is,
come down to zero.
forever, gonna go on forever until it hits zero, I
And I
got a little
agree.
hesitation with that.
People have their rights. So do we just want to, at this point, can we just say we were going to bring it down to 12? Or must we bring that back to the board? Must we open up to the public, or?
We'll have to do a public hearing, but we can do a work session right now where the board irons out what
Okay.
you want the regs to look like before we have a public hearing.
So can we say that, basically, we would like to adopt these with some changes to be discussed?
So I can add that one in for the next meeting.
Okay.
Were there any other from your old one that you wanted to pull over?
I'd have to go back and look at them. Let me see if they, does the audience have any comments? Can we,
You can ask.
any comments? Sure.
Rachel Tremblay. So I just want clarity on the number of licenses. Is it 15 plus the ones that are 21 plus? Or is it 15 including the ones that are 21 plus?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay, I'm just wondering if that one will also be capped or if it's going to be part of the cap you're speaking of, right? Because it would be 17 going down to 10. I'm just worried about the small businesses in that case.
I'd have to look. I can't remember if it's.
For sure. No
15
worries.
plus.
And then the other comment I have was the other regulation that looks like it was going to be added into the draft, which is the fee for the small businesses if they're in violation of selling flavored or to minors. And the fee increase is 900%, and I'm just wondering how we came up with such a number.
So the unflavored fee is set by the state. We have no control over lessening that.
And then what about the minors?
Same. That's the,
So the stuff in purple here was set by the state, so the state of Massachusetts is charging everyone $1,000 and they're losing their, and so it has nothing to do with
so
the town
they
of
can
Harwich.
control the amount of days they lose the license for. They can't control the fee.
Okay. And so the town of Harwich has decided it's 3 days for the first offense and then 7 and then 30?
That's the discussion for now.
Got it. Great. Okay, yeah, just some clarity on like where these numbers are coming from for the day of without license.
Okay, well, we'll work on that till the next one.
Thanks.
But
Thank you.
the fee is the state, so they don't actually have any control over that one.
Well, thanks for the clarity.
Okay, all right, and we're finished on this one? So we're gonna bring this discussion back for November.
And let me know if there's anything else you want me to pull over for the draft.
Okay, yeah, I'll, in
Bob,
fact,
is there anything else that you can think of that the board should be aware of or be thinking of?
not right now. No, I need to go back over this with a fine tooth comb.
Bob, did you hear me?
Oh, I wasn't sure that was addressed to me. I'm sorry.
Sorry, do you have anything else?
At the very, yeah, just one comment that I think you made at the very beginning, Katie, is whether or not the board would want to consider rescinding its current regulation and amending it with the entire state reg. And I think that's probably the way to go. It's just the cleanest way. And then you could add the other provision, the permit capping, if you'd like to, for that. And we can certainly provide the proper language for you to include that. But I think it's just a lot cleaner, even though you have several of the provisions in the new state law in your current regulation. It just works a lot easier to to rescind and adopt, you know, the state law as your local regulation. And if there are any components or provisions of the state law that you don't want in there, you know, that you could open that up for discussion, but except for those, you know, the penalty phase and that sort of thing, of course, which, you know, you have no control over. You're compelled to use that structure, the fine structure and so forth.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so for the board for next month, go through this and so that you have your comments ready. Anything else? All right. So we don't vote on any of that tonight either.
Nope, you can just take
That's
it
good.
under consideration.
All right, the next one is, our schedule, review of our schedule for next year. Any comments on this? From the board? No? No?
I mean,
I think they look good.
yeah.
If something comes up in between and we have to,
Yeah.
And same thing, if that December 19th ends up
Yeah.
being too close, we can do the same thing we did this year.
yeah, all right. All right, do I have,
So that we would want to vote on.
yes, do we have a motion?
I motion to accept the 2023 Harwich Board of Health meeting dates and filing deadlines.
I'll second that.
Vote?
Aye.
Right.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, the next one is the Board of Health fees.
So Sharon, you had asked to review them yearly, so this is the first step. If you did want to change anything, we would have to go through a public hearing process. If you didn't, it's just status quo, but I know you had mentioned wanting to review them yearly, and we figured we would put them on.
Now, I just want to make clear for everyone, the ones here in red are the new ones?
If you wanted to do them, yes.
So would we have, is that what you're saying, we would need a public hearing on these?
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on the board?
Nothing to add here. I would go along with the fee schedule as it is, with the new additions as well.
I think we would, what he's saying, what Katie's saying, we would need a hearing on it, if we add these, which,
I mean, I'm all for adding those additional ones. If we want to have a hearing over it, I can get behind that, absolutely.
okay. Matt,
No comment.
Pam,
No comment?
Ron?
Are these the fees that were last year also?
The excuse me, the second, the one that says existing is last year's.
Okay. So are we gonna propose to repeat those fees? Is that
think-
the idea?
So as to repeat them, we removed, if we end up going through the process, there was a few that we removed. We don't charge anyone for flu shots or pneumonia shots, so it's kind of, not needed to be on the fee schedule. And if you do move forward with any of the piggery permits, you would have to vote on that before the actual permits could be issued. And we did add on, if they wanted to rush any of the temporary fees, that we added on, if you wanted to consider a rush fee.
But we need a hearing on that, right? To add these.
Yep.
Should we go for the hearing to add these on? You were in favor of that?
I am, so we would need to have a future hearing with the town of it, so we just need to make that announcement ahead of time. And
Yep, we'd have to post it. I can check the timing and see if it works for November, if that's what the board wants to do.
Yes.
And do we need to make a motion for that? Or-
You make a motion to move, to,
a hearing.
Schedule a public hearing
Public
for
hearing at the
proposed
next
fee
meeting,
schedule.
so it can be posted appropriately and we can take, I move to
Be careful, don't do next meeting, because I have to check, I don't know if the posting
to
dates.
schedule a public hearing in the not too distant future to discuss the addition of the additional proposed fees.
I'll second that.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, next up. Okay, I guess, Ron, you can, you want to start reading that one?
On the, 5,
Yes.
Old unfinished business, are you talking about?
Yes,
Okay,
the one on the animal regs.
okay. A continued public hearing to solicit comment on the proposed revision to the Town of Harwich Board of Health Animal Regulations, continued from September 20th, 2022.
Okay, do we do the board first and then the public?
Sure.
Okay, board comments.
I have no additional comments regarding this.
And you saw, the additions that were, that was.
I mean, I think we've gone on, we've discussed this at length. I know at our last meeting, we decided to include the changes that are in red under 6.8 about the stall sizes. I feel like we have discussed this at fairly good length, and I feel like every time we get new, points to consider, we've made appropriate adjustments. They're very open to public comments. I don't feel like we have had a lot, though they have been requested, particularly with the Agricultural Commission. So if I would love to hear from the public if people are here to discuss that.
Okay, we can ask for that. Do you have any comments?
No comment. I mean, we spent a lot of time constructing this, so I think
Yeah, all right. Pam?
I just didn't know if the animal inspector had any other comments.
She is here too, yep.
I was going to wait till we did the board, and then we'll go to the,
Oh, okay.
Ron?
No comment.
No comments, all right.
And I just wanted to make sure the board saw the few legal comments that were in there, so I can add those definitions that he had suggested and make some of those few changes
Is
and bring
that-
them back.
Are those legal comments, are they in the packet that,
No, those are the confidential ones from our
Okay.
legal.
all right, so they have to go in basically regardless, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right, okay. Any comments from the public?
My name's Renee Cole. I sent an email earlier this week, maybe yesterday. to
Can you
the
speak
board.
up, please?
My name's Renee Cole. I sent an email earlier this week to the board about pet pigs. I have 3 pet pigs who all live in the house. My oldest is 10 years old, and my other 2 are 6 years old. And the email I sent today or yesterday was regarding, and I know you guys have worked hard on this, rewording what a pet pig is. My pet pigs live in my house as dogs. They're harness trained. They go out, they use the bathroom. I scoop up every day, clean it, put it in a bucket. They urinate outside in the same spot. I put sweet PDZ down once a week, which is what they use in stalls for a neutralizer and deodorizing. They're all spayed and neutered, microchipped. When I say they live in the house, they live on my couch. They sleep on my couch. They have access to outside. My yard's fenced in, but I know some people in town do not have fenced-in yards, but they're harness trained. And I was just hoping you guys could consider, I know some issues with the town is people have pet pigs that are outdoors, live in a barn or live in an enclosed area outside, that you could change that to non-livestock, and you could change the wording to domestic pet pig, and that would have to fall under, like, they would have to be spayed and neutered and all that. And if not, I would be a commercial piggery, I guess, because I have 3. And what does that mean? Do I get a variance if they live in the house? Do I have to pick my house up and move it this way, so it's 50 feet from the yard. How is all this gonna work, I guess? And what is the pig permit gonna cost? And my site plan is just my house, here's my house and my property. And I'm not the only person in town that has pet pigs either, indoor pet pigs. And I did send an email, I think you guys might have a copy of it. I can read it.
You all have a copy in front of you.
All right, no worries.
And they're only fed grain, they're not fed meat, they're only fed 12% protein in their diet, so they don't have extra nitrogen in their urine. They're bred for longevity. I don't know, I would just like the board to take that into consideration. And if not, would I be grandfathered in somehow, or how would the variance work? Are you gonna make me get rid of one pig, or all 3 pigs? I don't think my neighbors have ever complained about anything in 10 years. That was it. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the board?
I mean, certainly, I guess this would fall under non-commercial piggery. Our definition is by 2 or fewer, for exceptions where people have had more than 2 pigs already. If all we need to do is include some additional line in there where people who already have more than that number are allowed to continue without having to get rid of those, pigs as pets.
So I wouldn't
but-
recommend adding that right now, because there's no way of doing that. I mean, she came forward and she knows, but I think we could make the variance process easy for that and
Okay.
not require a site plan. Obviously, still have to be permitted, still have to be inspected, but it would be a pretty easy,
That would come up as like a
Variance process.
variance, like we do with the septics in
Yeah.
UK. Okay, so they've had the pig. I can absolutely get behind that on an individual case-by-case basis.
but the board's not trying to take anyone's pets. That's not the intent.
Okay.
No comment.
Yeah? Ron?
I completely go along with, if it's a pet pig and they've had them for years, I don't know, it's almost like a dog. Think about it.
So is there something in here that we have to put in about variances?
Nope, it's already in there.
It's in there. Or does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I know you guys are discussing.
Can you just go to the microphone, sorry?
I know you guys are discussing the cost of
Can you
piggery.
talk a little closer?
Oh,
Sorry.
my Lord. The cost of how much the piggery is gonna be, are we talking well, I know you guys are discussing that in another meeting, that I guess I will come to,
Or,
maybe in November.
What the placeholder one was in as,
$30.
$30.
Okay.
that was,
Can I say something?
oh.
Hi.
Online, go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Emma Bankman, and I'm the other person in town who has 2 pet pigs. And I think the board is misinterpreting what piggery is, because if you go, and I sent a packet out over today from the Mass Association of Health Boards, and they have a template which basically gives you definitions, and it has a really good, outline. And this is what towns, this is the newest one, so this is what towns around the state are using. And they specifically say pets that are indoors are not, nobody else uses really the term piggery except I think one other town, because it's antiquated and I'm not sure where that came from. But a piggery is basically, it's like a farm where you have pigs. Like our pigs are living inside. And I think a lot of these definitions are just, they're arbitrary and they're incorrect. Like for one, commercial piggery. So you're saying our house would then be a piggery?
A non-commercial.
So is that better?
There's a commercial and non-commercial.
No, I get that. I just don't like the term piggery. I'm fine with commercial and non-commercial, but my problem is that So I don't know, did anybody get a chance to look at the Massachusetts Association of
So
Health
we never
Board
received an email
template?
from her. I checked this at, right before
Okay.
5 o'clock, and we had never received.
I think
an
if we're
email.
arguing about the wording, that it's just called a piggery, I'm sorry, but I feel like that's kind of
No, it's not
irrelevant,
that I
that we're
don't-
calling it a piggery. It's the definition of what it is, and you're allowed to have your two pigs in this sense. I don't understand your holdup on the word piggery.
Because it makes you have all these other regulations where you have to be, you have these setbacks, and I mean, it's a lot to comply with, and we're not piggeries. That's the whole point. I think somebody's missing the point because, in what other towns do, I just don't know why we're not taking like what's current. Say, I can give you an example. Okay, the town of Dedham, that's right outside of Boston. Okay, they say household pets are animals that are primarily kept indoors for non-agricultural purposes, including but not limited to dogs, cats, ferrets, pot-bellied pigs, fish, domesticated exotic birds, blah, blah, blah. So they're one of them. Then another one is Lexington. They have, they also include indoor pet pigs. Then you've got Needham, which is, I mean, it's a little bit of a fancier town. And I mean, they even allow pigs. They specifically say dwelling and then what's a structure. And I just, I don't know. I just feel like these regulations really don't fit the definition of what they're supposed to be. Like, so for commercial piggery, it says any part of a property used to shelter, maintain, or process more than two swines for food, sale, pets. So that, and then in the next one, it says as pets. So is commercial piggery meaning that
As pets for sale.
as pets for sale is commercial piggery? Okay, and then non-commercial piggery is pets as pets?
Yep.
And some in personal food too.
Okay, so Renee would fall under non-commercial piggery.
Yes, with a variance.
Well, no, you just said if the pets meant that you're selling them if you have 3 of them, right?
No,
No.
they're pets.
If you're looking to sell them, it would be considered a commercial piggery. If they're pets to be pets, it would be a non-commercial, and we would allow a variance for Renee to keep the 3 that she has.
Okay.
So commercial piggery
can I-
would be somebody who's raising the pigs to sell as pets.
Okay, can I ask you why this came about? I mean, because there was an article from, I think the Cape Cod Chronicle, a few years ago, and it said something like Harwich determined that piggeries are a noisome trade. So that was looked back then, and I mean, when you have a pet pig, I just feel like, it's not being understood, the difference,
I don't know if I'm following this.
I feel like we're accounting for that difference.
I don't understand how do you feel that these regulations that you're
I don't
reading,
like-
how do they affect you?
Because I feel, the reason is because, look at, so in,
We're not talking
I don't feel
wordsmithing.
like-
How does it affect you?
how does it affect me? I would have to get rid of my pigs because I don't have the setback requirements because my house is now a piggery. So now you have these minimum distance requirements, right?
No, and the board's made it very clear, they're not taking anyone's pets away. You would apply for a variance and they would give you that variance.
Okay, so what's the variance process then?
It's outlined in the regulations under variance. And then under the Board of Health website under variance as well.
I just feel like, this process wasn't, it wasn't really transparent. Had it not been for Officer Harrington, like, no, none of us would have even found out about it.
We've been working on this
And,
for
I mean,
8
it
months
just-
and have emailed every
Almost a year
single
now.
barn in the town.
Well, so you guys kind of have already decided about this, but, well, every barn in the town. So this is the thing with domestic animals, like chickens, pigs, goats. Those are all considered domestic animals under Massachusetts law, correct?
It depends on their use.
Right. Okay, so I mean, not ones that you're slaughtering, but if you have like a couple goats or whatever, so that would mean that every single chicken, every single goat would have to be inspected by Jennifer,
That's a state law.
correct?
Correct. Per the state.
Okay. Okay, so I don't understand then, you said we were all notified because I mean, how did, I don't, there's no,
So this
there's
is a
no
public
way, I
hearing.
mean,
It's
Jen.
advertised in the newspaper, online, Channel 18, at every single meeting. We've gone through the legal hearing process of posting this.
And so so you guys have already decided on this, right? I mean, pretty much, like, this wasn't really open to hearing.
No, it's not that we've already decided on it, we haven't voted on it, but this has been an 8-month process of reviewing these, and the public has been invited to each and every one of those meetings with plenty of advisement. And at this point in the current discussion, I don't feel like there's anything that's been brought up that would necessitate a change to any of it at the moment.
It won't deprive you of your pets, you just need to apply for the variance.
Yeah, we're gonna let you keep your pigs. That's not the problem.
I'll move on to the next one if there's any
All
others.
right. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Come up to the microphone and give your name, please.
This is an interesting subject, which I will tell you, I have a small bed, and I have a small hotel in Dennisport, and it's pet friendly. And over the last 5 years, we've had people bring little pet pigs with them. We only used to take dogs. Never had an issue, I'll be honest with you. And I don't even know anything about pigs, to be honest with you, other than bacon or something like that, which is common slang to say. But I think the word piggery, to the people that own them, may sound a little slang, and just a definition. And I think it's just a question of definition. But I guess, does that apply to other animals? Like if people have goats and chickens and all of that, the same thing would apply to variance? Or is it just defined as pigs? That's the part I'm not sure of. So,
So
in
the
other words, if
setbacks
people
is
had
the-
3 goats, would they have to apply for variance? People have chickens, they have to apply for variance? Or is it just single, the little, pet pigs?
I think
So the
both,
structures themselves would have to meet setbacks
Yes,
unless they were
the
pre-existing, and then
structures.
they'd
I
be
don't think
exempt.
there's the chickens or the goats are living in the home.
Some of them do. I mean, I don't personally do it, but I'm just saying that there are people that, yeah, they do. That I know for
I
a
would
fact,
assume
but,
then that if they've got the goats living in the house, that,
Well, we're not licensing goats per
Yeah.
se, but the stables and the coops would have to meet the setbacks unless they're pre-existing.
but if
Yes.
they
Kind
lived,
of
I
an
think
interesting
what,
subject.
I think the fact that we're saying that she's got 2 pigs, and she would have to apply for a variance if
Because
some,
we permit pigs.
because you permit it, all right, and we don't permit goats, all right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's an interesting subject. And I understand where they're coming from as pets today. Pets are like different than a farm animal that runs around a farm. And a variance process can be kind of confusing and, expensive for people to have to go through it and that are not familiar with the process. So I think that's their concern, the way it's defined. It's kind of ambiguous in a way, unless you really know how to define a system. So it's an interesting subject. Just
Okay, thank
giving you my little comment, that's all.
All right, so are we ready for,
I have one more online comment. Excuse me.
Okay.
Hi there. My name's Belinda Rollins. I apologize for not having a camera. I can't seem to get to recognize it. But anyway, I live over on Wallace Road off near Hinckley's Pond. And I am a friend of the two pigs of Emma's, and they're lovely pigs. You should see the pictures of their birthday parties. They're wonderful. But my concern as I read the regulations is mostly around a little bit of ambiguity for grandfathering in pre-existing pigs, to make sure that it is very clear that they can apply for the variance. I've done a lot of public policy work at the federal level, not so much at the local. And as I read that, I just found that it was just not very precise and obvious that somebody who already had pigs would be able to apply for that variance, and be exempted from the setback rules as they were described in there. So my primary advocacy here would be to say, can you take a look to clarify that with some stronger language, and to even perhaps make it clear that pet pigs that are living within households, not in barns or stables, would be exempted in these new policies. That would be my ask. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I could check with legal and see if they wanted to add in clarifying language.
All
but
right.
They've already reviewed this several times.
All right, so want to check with legal and then maybe bring it back again in November.
Yeah, and legal did have a few little changes, so I'll add those.
All right. All right.
I just have one tiny little thing.
Sure, up to the microphone. And your name, please.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Dubuque. Last time I was here, I got up and mentioned the same thing. What if you have a mini under barn stable construction, 6.9, it says you have to have a minimum clearance of at least 8 feet. Are you sticking by that if you have mini horses?
I did reach out
No.
to the
Horse
other
this high?
buildings, and that's normal for building height. And that would
And
be
maybe,
across the-
maybe like a shed is that high. Do you probably a new structure, maybe it is 8 feet. Okay, but like, yeah. I don't know if like you had within a structure, if you had an area and maybe put things on top of it. I don't know. Do you have to have 8 feet above a miniature horse?
Well, it's not 8 feet above the horse, it's just an 8-foot ceiling.
An 8-foot ceiling. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
That'd be a big ceiling for some drafts.
All right. Please.
Craig Whitcomb. I am property owner in North Harwich. I have a couple questions. I apologize for not having been involved with this, regulation review and development, so I'm a little bit naive, I guess, but I have a couple questions I'd like to ask the board regarding the management of manure and rats. If manure is buried on a property for a continual point of time and there's lots of animals in a small area, how is that managed? How is that monitored? And to what extent is it allowed to the point where rats start to become endemic to the neighborhood? And exactly how many rats does it take before it becomes an issue that would be of your concern?
Want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
So composting is actually, you need approval in Harwich for both the piggery and stable permits. If you're gonna compost on site, we have to have a manure management plant no matter what. But if you're composting, we really encourage you to contact the county and get a plan written out, because there's a lot of science that actually goes into true composting. Rats are absolutely a problem that we are very aware of. Unfortunately, complaints a lot of the time are the only way to trigger it. If you see a rat problem, give us a call, we'll come out. We do have other regulations that are state-based, that are based in nuisances. So if there is a rat problem somewhere, let us know, because we can. It's not just, there's not a number of rats we have to see in order to take enforcement. It's situational.
Okay, thank you. I've been on the
If you can
property all my
go,
life.
you can go to the mic, just.
Yeah, I've been on the property all my life. My family's been on site for 82 years. I've never seen a live rat till this year. And it's starting to become obvious that there's some issues,
Yeah,
so.
that's Cape Wide, and it absolutely is an issue that we're working on right now.
Okay.
Thanks for
thank you.
bringing that up. You're right.
All right, then we'll bring this back. You're gonna check with legal, and then we'll bring it back next
Were there
month.
any other changes before?
No. Anybody else? All right, anybody from the board?
Nothing to add?
No comment.
No comment.
No comments.
You want to give the public one more time so they can't say that we haven't been?
All right, anybody else from the public? All right,
We'll bring it back.
we'll bring
for-
it back November.
Why don't you vote to continue it to November 15? Thank you.
Is it, what is it,
November 15.
15?
Need a motion?
Or just make a motion to
Yeah,
continue?
to continue the, yeah.
That motion to continue the discussion on animal regulations to November 15th.
I'll second
No
that
earlier
motion.
than 6:30.
No earlier than 6:30.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Maybe we can finalize it. Would we be able to finalize it then?
Hopefully.
Okay, all right, let me see, let me flip this over. All right. The next thing is the showcase hearing. Oh, Ron, I'm gonna let you do it.
Under new business,
Yes,
show cause hearing, 10 Old County Road, Tony Ann Nominee Trust. Failure to comply with notice of violation issued by the Health Department on July 27th, 22, -15-301. System inspections.
Hi, I'm Leon Narbone, and I am the trustee owner of Tony and Nominee Trust, which is 10 Old County Road. Just to give you a quick snapshot, 10 Old County Road, we have 15 units there on this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate buildings, and it's mostly low-income housing. It's for people that are on housing. We got a portion that are on the housing program. Most of the people work in town. They all have jobs, but they're low-income housing. So, and that's what we provide there. And it's got its challenges at times, as you know, but it's we need to have it in the community for the people that work, that do all the jobs around town, restaurants, et cetera. We had a problem with a tenant. She started off as housing what was just her, and then it turned out to be her boyfriend. Then she got pregnant, so now we have 3 of
We're
them.
not actually here to hear any of the housing. We can only talk about the septic.
Oh, well, I just wanted to let you know that how the septic issue came about was that she was throwing diapers, and it got clogged up very badly. So we had the fella come pump it out, and then as he looked at it, he kept it open. Health department came. He didn't keep it open, he just put a cover on it, an additional cover on it, so he could check to see if they were continuing doing it after a couple days. There's 3 systems in the property. 2 of them were put in. One was put in, and that system, by the way, that we're talking about was put in before '98. I don't know when, because I bought it in '98. We replaced 2 systems, one in 2015 and one in 2017. So we have them pumped every year faithfully. So I did hire Jeff Walls, who does some work in town. 5 days after I got the notice, he apologized. He dropped the ball on it. He told me he did. Came to the health department, and he told the health department and asked for 45 days to present what he felt was reasonable to present the inspection for that unit up on the hill. He did today. He turned it in today. He got it done. And that unit, we knew was going to have some issues. It works fine, but it did fail. I've already hired an engineer, ESA, his name is Ed. And Ed Stone is already working on a new system and, you know, how we can get rid of the old system. The other two systems Ed Stone did, and they were put in not long ago. He said, you know, to come to the hearing, he said, because for you to invest the money, you have to spend $700 for an inspection for two systems that work fine, that are no issues, that are fairly new, didn't make any sense. So I came down and I spoke with the head of the health department. I spoke, I think, with Jen and then the other girl, and she said, we'll go to the hearing and speak to the board and see what they say. So I'm asking for the board to just consider not having to spend all this extra money if the systems work fine and they are pumped every year, they're fairly current, and the one that did fail is being replaced. I'm working on a set of plans that will be presented to the town hopefully for approval, done properly, and then we'll have it installed as soon as we get the permit to do it. Right now, it's not failed, it's usable, but we are on it, and we're gonna get it done ASAP. So that's what I wanted to report to you tonight, and I just ask if you would consider, and I didn't fail to do it, I gave it to someone who dropped the ball, and he took responsibility and told the town that, so. It's on the low-end housing, we don't really make any money. It's sort of we're working to keep these people in places. They pay, $1,000 to $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month. That includes all the utilities, the nice one-bedroom units. And where do they go? Nowhere. So we're just trying to keep the cost in line, and, we'll make sure they work good. They're pumped every year faithfully. They come once a year, they pump the systems, because if we don't, then we know what happens. It ends up with issues, and that costs more money. But those are the snapshot of the whole thing, and I'm just asking the board for the relief on spending the money to have the others inspected. Both felt it wasn't necessary because the systems are fairly new, they haven't failed, and they're being serviced and monitored on a regular basis. I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff, but he does a lot of work in the town, and he's got a good reputation, so. And Ed Stone's done a bunch of work here too, and he's working on the new system now, and he's hoping to have it, they're all busy as it is. Everybody's out straight, but he said he'll have it to me ASAP so we could get together, get a price on the new system and get it done, so.
So Katie, do you have any?
That's the reason why I'm here.
So we did receive the one failed inspection today. We did order him to inspect all of the systems. It was actually 2013 and 2015. We are concerned that those other two might be in failure from other staff in the town. Our plumbing inspector was a little concerned, so I would recommend having them still be inspected. The water readings from that one system are more than double what the system was designed for, so we are afraid that that's happening on those other systems as well, and they are in pre-term failure because of the excess water use.
Well, the reason why there was a water thing was because there was a toilet running that wasn't reported either. So we located that in Unit 12 and took care of that. So, when you have the tenants, we do an inspection. Town does an inspection, housing does an inspection, building department does an inspection of all the units, fire department does an inspection. So we go through them as often as we can, but, when you have people living in a place and they don't come to you and say, oh, by the way, my toilet's running, can you fix it? It's like, it's crazy, but, so it's catch-22. So if they both looked at the systems, didn't feel it was necessary, and if there is an issue where they have to be pumped more often or something like that, I understand it, yeah, but they're pumped once a year, and they're not that old, and we haven't had any issues, so it's just another expense to incur on top of putting in, a $40,000 system, which we've already applied for a loan to do it, so, and that's been granted, so we'll be able to get that done.
Okay.
So I'm just asking the board to consider it, that's all.
All right, comments?
Well, it sounds like we could possibly have some conflicting information on those other two systems. I know you're saying it's all related to this one toilet, is that one toilet feeding into both other systems?
No,
I
they're
do
all,
feel like
there's
in-
3 separate systems.
Yeah.
So, driving the property is a system in the front, and it services units 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that system was put in, I think, 15, is that what it was? Just in 2015, it was all done brand new. And nobody drives on or nothing, that's all in the backyard. I think in 2013, if that's the correct date, there was one that was put in which services 3 units, which is Unit 15, 16, and 17. And then the one that's the issue is the one on the hill that services 6 units, which is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. That one was an existing system. It was there when I bought it in '98. I mean, it passed, Title V, they all did. But the other 2 have already been replaced with new systems. This one we hadn't replaced because we hadn't had any issues.
And is that the one that's being replaced now?
That's when it's being replaced. And the biggest problem with that was it was clogged because it was so loaded with diapers and wipes, and I can't even tell you.
So then you're saying that the other 2 is it the other 2 then with the excess water?
No, the one with the excess water is the one that we're replacing.
Oh, that is the one.
That's the
you're
one we're
replacing.
replacing, yes. The other ones, we haven't had no issue. The excess water is the system we're replacing. That's the one that he did the report on. He felt that we should do a report on it, and he even told me, so listen, this thing is old.
So the
This
one you're
needs to be
replacing,
done.
was that the issue with the diapers as well as
Yes,
the toilet?
yep, oh yeah, yep,
How was water running into it if it was clogged?
yep.
No, the toilet was just, you know how your toilet runs if it doesn't.
Constantly run. I mean, they just like, and they don't
The house
say
get
anything.
flooded?
No.
They don't tell us. So now what we do is we're gonna do more frequent inspections. And the only way you can catch it is, something like that. There's no other way you could really catch it, you know what I mean? We don't go into houses, check the toilets regularly. But,
So I
You
used
know-
to be a property manager. When we did all the septics yearly,
Yeah.
all the septics got inspected. And they all got
Supposed
pumped
to.
at the same
You're
time. So
supposed
I
to
would
do them all.
recommend
You're
doing
not
that.
supposed to. You're supposed to do them all when you have them inspected.
well, they both looked at it and said that they thought that it was an overreach in the sense that there hasn't been any issues, so why have to spend the $700 to have an inspection? That's another, $1,400 on top of the 7 we already spent, plus the 40 grand we gotta spend on the system. I mean, just, if there was an issue, I wouldn't have any problem. I would do it in a heartbeat, but there hasn't been an issue with either one of the
It
systems.
would give you peace of mind too.
What's that?
It would give you peace of mind.
Well, with peace of mind, but, you gotta be able to afford to do it, and at the same time, I mean, if it's working and there's not a problem, we've never had to do it in the past. That's why we have them come every year. They pump the system faithfully. And, when they do, if they see an issue, they'll tell us about it, and then we'll address it at that time. But, I like to get through this system and get this installed and get this expense taken care of and deal with one that's the issue, the oldest one, I mean, it's working, but that's not the issue. The issue is it's old and it's failed and it needs to be replaced. And that's what we're gonna do.
If I may, Katie, ask you a question in regards to this. If I am understanding correctly, earlier comments that you made indicate there are concerns not just about the system that's failed and acknowledge that it needs to be replaced, but there are concerns about specifically water usage in the other 2 systems as well. Okay. I think they should all be inspected as well then.
Which ones had the water issue? Do you remember?
Well, we don't know, that's the problem.
Well, how do you know which ones, they don't know which ones had the water issue?
We got water reports for one unit saying that it was more than double the usage, so that's what we need to confirm, that this isn't happening across the board, all the units, and they're all in failure.
Okay, but wouldn't they know that when they pumped them? They could see that? They can't see that the water keeps running and running?
No, not necessarily.
So which unit was the one that showed that the overwater usage?
It's a combined, because they're all attached. It's the ones that failed had more than double the water use.
Right, and those were the ones with the toilets running. That was the issue, right?
But we also don't know if that's happening in the other units or not.
All right, let me ask you something, and I'm not good with these
And Title V does require that you inspect them all when you do them all at the same time. So he's asking basically to go against that.
Well, I'm asking if it's really necessary, if you don't have an issue. I mean, you usually do an inspection if you sell a house, but in this case, being a property that had an issue, and the only reason why they came was because of a call from that lady from housing, the girl that we're having an issue with, but that's the only reason why they came. Otherwise, you know,
So do they get
usually they'll tell
inspected
us when
every
they
year?
look at them.
It's the failed system trigger Title V inspection.
All right, but there's more than one system, so do they, when it's not commercial, or when you're renting,
So
do they get inspected every year?
Shared systems are supposed to be inspected every 3 years.
Okay. All right.
Every how many years?
3.
Okay. No, I mean, I can respect that, you know, the 3 years, so.
So were they inspected within 3 years?
No, I didn't even know they had to be. This is the first I heard about it. But I can respect
Then-
having it done. I don't have an issue with that. I just didn't know about it.
All right, then I would think, yeah, then they should be. What I was going to get at was, if they all had been inspected, and this one that you're fixing could have been the issue, I was gonna look at, can we get that fixed, and then see if the issue continues. But if they haven't been inspected within the 3 years, then I do think they need to be done. I know we get ours done every 2 years.
That's probably pumped.
Yeah, oh, all right, pumped, all right, so. yeah,
Right, pumped. Yeah, we have it pumped every year because, you
And
know.
I do think then they do need to be inspected, if they haven't been done within 3 years. Any further?
I'll make a motion to
Can I
require-
get some time on it? I mean, because the people have been busy. I had trouble getting a guy to even do the inspection.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
would-
21 pages, and
What was that?
we can get some time, and, you know, I'll have Jeff do it. I
Yeah,
mean, he don't have a
alright.
problem doing it.
Yeah,
He's the
alright.
one who services, he's the one who's gonna pump them and take care of them, and he's a respectable guy. He'll watch if something's wrong. I mean, he's gonna say, Leon, there's something wrong. We gotta fix it.
All right,
You know?
can we ask to at least have an update, either from you or the person that's doing this, so that we know that it's progressing, not that we just let it go?
Oh, no, I will. I'll be happy. Ed Stone, I think you know Ed, right? He's working on the new system. So you'd be happy if you want me to have him write you a letter, just let you know. He's in a process of getting that done. I'll talk to Jeff, and Jeff can let you know that as soon as he can get to the other two, he'll get them inspected and get the inspection to the town. And it gives everybody a little bit of working time so that we're not under a gun for, 30 days to do it or something, that's all.
I would put a time limit on it.
Would it be okay, I mean, I know with option 2 here, talks about having the inspections submitted to the health department no later than December 1st.
You could change that.
Could we,
Change that.
I'd say if it would be amenable to you and to the board, if we keep that date and just say
How
that
about
you've
like
gotta
the
have
middle
a
of December?
definitive
He asked me
plan
for the-
by then, and
Okay.
come to us with dates of that
I'd
it's
even
gonna
be
be
fine with
done?
like January 1st.
If that could do that, I will get it done. I'll have Jeff do them, and, if he gets it done sooner, I get it over to you sooner, that's all. Yeah, no problem. I mean, if there's an issue, obviously, we're gonna fix it, so,
Or if, the option would be if something comes up, let's say we'd have some bad weather or something, and it can't be done.
I
That
understand.
can be extended.
Yeah, I would come and speak with the board. I've never had a problem working with them, and Jeff doesn't, and I
Extend it
think
now to
Ed does
January
too.
1st with the knowledge that
All right,
we
Yep.
might need to extend it again later?
We can get them done, I
Under
think, by then.
circumstances?
Yeah,
All right.
that's reasonable.
all right, all right.
I'm on board with that.
I motion to accept option 2 with the change of the date, and to move to require that a completed Title V inspection of the septic system at 10 Old Colony Road be submitted to the Health Department no later than January 1st, 2023. If inspections are not submitted by that date, yeah, we'll begin finding the owner if you haven't communicated to us that there are hardships that need to be addressed and postponed for some unforeseeable reason at this time.
That's fair. Yep.
All right,
We'll get that done.
I'll second that motion.
okay, favor?
Aye?
Thank you. Thanks, board, for the time. Yep.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And they know how to contact me too if they.
Yeah,
have-
they know, right, and they will.
Yeah.
Ed's already said he's gonna drop you a note telling you, I already,
Perfect.
you know, hired him and told him to get going. And he did the other two systems, he designed the other two, so if there's any questions, he's very familiar with them. And Jeff, you know, he has a good handle on it too, so
Sounds good, thank you.
we'll be good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, yep, bye.
Next one, Ron?
Show cause hearing, 119 Julian Road, Molesky and Maynard. Failure to comply with the Harwich Board of Health regulation regarding the testing and reporting requirements for innovative alternative systems.
If you're more comfortable, you can come up here too. There's a microphone
Oh,
over
it
here. if
doesn't
you wanna-
really matter. It should be done here real quick. I would just like to make the statement that,
Can you
This-
introduce yourself first?
pardon me,
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Mark Molesky. I thought I said that earlier. No? The brand.
Have a seat.
I just want to just go through this real quick, make sure I'm going to show you the real stuff. So I do have a contract. I didn't, it was done today.
Oh,
I was away for the last couple of weeks and months, well, and finally I put my attention to this because of the urgency of the note that I got from you. You can see that. However, I just want to say this is a seasonal home. It is not a year-round home, but the requirements that I'm getting from, let me back up. This home I bought in 16. I had to go through all the inspections, right? For the transfer to work, for the septic tank. Passed. It was a good septic tank, right? The house wasn't any good. I knocked it down. And I had to go through the process of Conservation, Board of Health, and Court Appeals to get everything. I did not attend the Board of Health meeting. I sent my engineer. He says, well, they think it would be a good idea if you put in a IA system. I said, what is it? He told me about it. I looked it all up. I go, that sounds like a pretty good system. I go, yeah, I can do that. I think it'll be good. I didn't realize how punitive it was.
Yeah.
Well, no one told me that until afterwards. Fine. I got into some words with, not words, like we didn't cuss at each other or anything, but who is the company I had on a contract with? Let me just look. I just want to see his name again. Okay, All Cape Environmental. So he's Wilson guy. No, Wilson? Winston, thank you. And he kind of owes me 4 inspections, but I guess I won't call him on that one, because I was supposed to get 4 free inspections. But he doesn't want anything to do with the house anymore. So I found this guy, he'll come out and do it, which you can see I have the contract for.
So I have to check, I don't know if this meets your requirements though, and I don't
Well,
have those in front of me, so.
I have what he sent me and other things about this system and what the manufacturer recommends.
So regardless of what
I
the
know,
manufacturer.
I know.
Please don't interrupt me.
Okay,
The
but
Board of Health has specific.
I know, I was gonna
testing
say, I
requirements.
understand that the Board of Health has more stringent. Got it, fine. I'll get the results.
Oh, I have it right here, let me check.
I have the results, and when I get the results, you'll get the results. My question is, what levels would dictate that I'm out of compliance with this system that I have to do 4 times a year? I'm sending affluents to be tested. They'll come back. What are you looking for? I mean, where is, hey, your system's not working level? I just would like to know that. I can't find that anywhere. Maybe you can answer that, Health Director Kathleen.
I don't know if that depends on the system, if that comes out of the,
So it's part of the, it's in the state requirements.
Yeah, it is, but yours are more
Our testing is more stringent. We didn't say our levels are more stringent.
I just want to know what the levels are.
It's in the state code. I don't know it off the top.
Well, okay, I thought I went through the state code when I looked up what a Title V really is. And my point being, I had a perfectly good working system when I was going through this process. I didn't have to change it. I did it voluntarily, and now I'm feeling, and I feel I shouldn't be slapped, but, and I will continue down this road, but I will come to you one day, again, and I'm going to ask for, if the levels are fine, it's a seasonal home, I live in Litchfield, New Hampshire, that I don't have to do 4 times a year anymore. Because I'm just saying, you don't have to vote on that. I just hope you
You're
understand.
not allowed to vote on it, and you can't even discuss it.
I know, I'm just saying, I can throw stuff out little, I'm not, point is, if I'm not in compliance right now with this, tell me what I need to do, and I'll talk to him tomorrow, and I'll get it done.
So I believe the testing, I have to cross-check it, but I want the board to know that IA was required because there was an increase to the existing dwelling.
No, there wasn't. There was no 4-bed, I stayed with the 4-bedroom plan. That's, everything was based on 4 bedrooms. They wouldn't let me. I couldn't put a door on my den because they said that's gonna be a bedroom. So I didn't put a door on it. I made it 5 feet wide. So there was no contradictions with what is a bedroom and what isn't. I stayed with 4. I didn't increase. I stayed on the same footprint. Septic would have been fine. I got that. But this is what I got
All right.
now.
Could you please let Katie speak for a minute?
Sure.
So background on the property, there was an increase in habitable space, and that's why IA was volunteered by the engineer and was approved by this board, which is consistent with all of your hearings when there's an increase in habitable space.
Is there any other IA systems in Harwich that you know of?
Yes, there's a ton.
There's a ton.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just curious. And how would I be able to find these other systems? Is it public knowledge?
It is, they're all on the county website. You can contact the
County website? Okay. I just wanted to know if they were in Harwich website. That's all.
The county monitors all IA, and that's the first one who reached out to you over a year ago.
Okay, fine. That was just an issue I had with somebody else, that's all. But recognizing this, coming in, took care of it.
And the county will reach out to them if it's not meeting their requirements.
Now, I got the guy, he's supposed to send him everything, he knows what to do. He was on the list of Barnstable County, I don't think I brought that one though. He was on the list of who I could use, who they trusted. And I just want to make a comment, my water usage for over 2 years is like 40,000 gallons over 2 years. That's pretty low. I think it's averaging 50 gallons a day. And if you really look at my peak times, it is the summer, and I use 14,000 gallons over 3 months. That's company.
All right, let's move on to, what do we,
So because he got you the contract, you don't need to take action. If we find that there's delinquencies and they don't get corrected, then we would bring back. We do have some contract now. We'll check with the county, make sure it meets everything. And then if it doesn't, and it doesn't get corrected, then it would come back.
So do we close the hearing? Or,
You can
Continue.
you can just not take action on it at this moment.
right. So that would be the motion, not to take action?
Just take it under consideration for the time being.
All right.
Does somebody want to?
I motion to just take this under consideration for the time being, considering that you brought us a contract before the date required.
Not take action at this time.
Not to currently take any action.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right.
You're gonna keep that receipt and contract I have? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, the next one is Ronnie.
Oh, no, you're right, one more, sorry.
Hearing, 126 Route 28 Chase Escape Cape Cod LLC, for the applicant to provide the Board of Health with sufficient evidence that a contract has been executed for a septic upgrade and to have further discussion on positive extension of time for the septic upgrade of up to 45 days or longer.
Is anyone here online? So they did have, we were alerted of a management change for
Yes.
Chase Escapes LLC. If no one is here right now for the hearing, I would recommend continuing.
Go to that option 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right, without anybody here to discuss this, I motion for option 1, a continuance. We would require additional information, and we'll take it under advisement. We move to continue the hearing for 126 Route 28 to no earlier than 6:30 PM on November 20th, no, 15th, November 15th. Seeing as nobody is here would be the reason for it.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh,
I'm an aye.
One question, so,
Oh.
does anybody from that Chase Escape talk to you at all?
Not since we heard about the personnel change, no.
When did the letter come in? Do you have a date on that? The letter from Paulini,
When he,
resident resigned.
um,
Is there a date on that?
yes. I can't find it at the moment. It was the Friday before the,
Yeah.
what was it?
See what the date is on
Email was received on October 7th.
October 7th?
Yes.
Okay, so that's November's, okay, so he's got 45 days.
So I think we put the 45 on hold and you were gonna vote on a new, so we wouldn't hold them to that 45 days. But I'll contact the other attorney to make sure that they're aware of this.
Okay.
Okay, the health director's report.
Okay, so we held 3 COVID and flu clinics. Overall, we administered 97 high-dose flu vaccines, 148 regular dose flu vaccines, 127 Moderna boosters, and 146 Pfizer boosters for a grand total of 518 vaccines over 3 clinics. Special thanks to VNA and the staff for getting that on, as well as CERT. I've included the list from the September permitting, and very sad but happy is, this is Jen's last meeting. She is our new town clerk. We are
Assistant town clerk.
Really
assistant town
sad.
clerk, excuse me,
Whoa,
assistant town
whoa.
clerk.
Sad but happy for her.
We're heartbroken but very happy for the good move for her, so we'll miss her.
Yes, we will.
I'd just like to comment on these reports, that I really think, I'm really pleased to see them, because I think it shows the town people that may go through these packets, what all the Board of Health does, because I know that a lot of people will say to me, well, what do you do? As the board, we don't, we're policy, but the department does a lot. And I know they keep getting asked to do more. And I think, as that comes up, I think we will, at some point, it needs to be addressed. But I think having these handy, and I'm keeping each one of them, it will add to the, what's the word I'm looking, information. Yeah, the information to present, but, yeah, I appreciate those. I know they're a lot of work to put together.
Happy to do them.
All right, any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Permits?
Excuse me, few renewals and 2 new ones that are being licensed as utility installers that were existing septic installers.
All right. Okay. Anybody make a motion to?
Move to accept the permits?
Second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, second. Vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any others? Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
Vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
The young lady that was on there,
Wait, did we just adjourn them?
yes.
Okay, we can't,
Okay.
sorry.
All right.
Did he say aye? Aye. Okay.
Yes.